What if the greatest advantage in life isn't money, talent, or connections, but education? Not the kind you get from a classroom or a certificate, but the kind you give yourself every single day. In a world evolving faster than ever, where information doubles in months and industries shift overnight, those who stop learning fall behind, quietly, but quickly. Meanwhile, those who keep learning, even for just 1 hour a day, begin to pull ahead. Not because they know everything, but because they refuse to stay the same. This audiobook is your blueprint for that kind of transformation. Not a crash course, not a shortcut, a lifelong strategy. Inside, you'll discover how to cultivate the one habit that silently sets the top 1% apart: daily self-education. No matter your age, background, or past, your brain is your greatest asset, and it's time to start investing in it. You'll learn how to build a powerful learning routine, curate what you consume, retain and apply knowledge, and build the kind of mind that doesn't just adapt to the future, it shapes it. Because the truth is, you don't need to know everything, you just need to keep learning. Every day. And by the end of this audiobook, you'll know exactly how. Chapter 1. Why most people stop learning, and why you can't. The day most people graduate is the day their learning stops. Diplomas are handed out, caps fly into the air, and with that final exam behind them, many quietly retire from the act of intentional education. They assume that learning was a phase, one that ends when school ends. But here's the truth most people miss. School might end, but real learning is only just beginning. The problem isn't that people are lazy, it's that they've been conditioned to associate learning with pressure, grades, and rigid systems. When they leave school, they breathe a sigh of relief and step into the real world, expecting to coast on what they already know. But the world doesn't wait. Technology evolves, industries change, new problems demand new skills, and while some keep learning and adapting, most get stuck in the illusion that yesterday's knowledge is enough for tomorrow's challenges. It's easy to settle into a routine. The job becomes predictable. Life gets busy. Curiosity fades under the weight of comfort. And slowly, without even realizing it, many become outdated, not just professionally, but mentally. This is what we call intellectual stagnation, when the mind stops stretching, exploring, and growing. And the scariest part, you usually don't notice it until it's too late. When you stop learning, you stop expanding. Your thinking becomes rigid, your creativity dulls, your solutions stay small. In a world that rewards innovation and adaptability, this isn't just a disadvantage, it's a slow death of potential. The comfort zone, while seemingly safe, is where curiosity goes to die. Now compare that to someone who never stops learning, someone who sees every day as a new opportunity to upgrade their mind. Take the story of a janitor working at NASA, often overlooked, moving silently through the hallways of one of the most advanced organizations in the world. He didn't have a fancy degree or a big title, but what he did have was curiosity and a commitment to learn. At night, after work, he taught himself computer programming, not because anyone told him to, not because he had to, but because he wanted to grow. Fast forward a few years, and that same janitor was no longer sweeping floors. He was writing software, contributing to projects that were literally reaching for the stars. Now compare that to the employee who got hired straight out of college, did just enough to keep the job, and never invested in learning anything new. Years later, they're still in the same cubicle, watching younger, hungrier minds rise past them, not because they're more talented, but because they're more curious. The difference between these two people isn't intelligence, it's mindset. Lifelong learners don't wait for opportunities to show up, they prepare for them. They don't fear not knowing something, They fear not growing. To them, learning isn't a phase, it's a lifestyle. It's in how they read, how they ask questions, how they think about challenges. They approach the world with open eyes and an open mind. You might be wondering, how do I become a lifelong learner? It starts with shifting how you see education. Instead of something you have to do, see it as something you get to do. Don't learn because it's required. Learn because it's empowering. Understand that knowledge is your leverage. Every book you read, every idea you explore, every new skill you add becomes another tool in your personal arsenal. And here's the powerful part in today's world. Access to knowledge has never been easier. You don't need a classroom. You don't need a degree. You don't even need permission. YouTube tutorials, free courses, audiobooks, podcasts, online communities, all of them are waiting for the person who decides to keep growing. But that decision has to be yours. The truth is, most people won't make that choice. Most will keep scrolling, keep coasting, keep living on intellectual autopilot. They'll stick to what they know because it feels safer. But safe doesn't lead to success. Growth does. And growth only happens when you push past the limits of what you currently know. So as you listen to this audiobook, ask yourself, do you want to be like the employee who plateaued, or like the janitor who rose beyond expectations? Your job title doesn't matter. Your background doesn't matter. What matters is that you keep learning, because once you stop moving forward. This chapter isn't just a warning, it's an invitation to step off the path of the 99% and start building a mind that never stops evolving. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to stay curious enough to keep asking better questions. That's how growth begins, and that's how you stay ahead. Chapter 2. The 1% Rule. Small daily gains, massive long-term growth. Success doesn't usually come from grand gestures or giant leaps. It's not the result of sudden genius or overnight breakthroughs. More often than not, it's the quiet power of small, deliberate actions done consistently over time that make the difference. This is the heart of the 1% Rule. The idea that if you improve by just 1% every day, those tiny gains will compound into something extraordinary. Let's break that down. 1% might seem insignificant, almost laughable, but that's the beauty of it. It's so small, so manageable, that you can do it every single day. Read just one page of a book. Listen to 10 minutes of a podcast. Reflect for 5 minutes before bed. None of that feels overwhelming. But stack those actions and suddenly you're building something powerful, momentum. This is what we call compound learning. Just like compound interest turns small investments into huge returns, small efforts in learning snowball into massive growth over time. The trick isn't doing a lot once. It's doing a little consistently. When you understand this principle, you unlock a superpower, because now every day becomes an opportunity to get just a bit smarter, a bit sharper, a bit more capable. Take this example. If you read 1 page a day, that's 365 pages in a year. That's roughly 10 books. 10 books ahead of who you were last year. That's not just information, it's perspective, ideas, and skills that begin shaping how you think, work, and live. Most people never read 10 books in a year because they wait for time they never find. You take it 1 page at a time. James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, shares a brilliant example of the British cycling team. For decades they were stuck in mediocrity, no Olympic medals, no Tour de France wins, no major impact on the cycling world. Then something changed. Their new coach implemented a simple philosophy: focus on getting 1% better in everything. Not just training routines, but the shape of the seat, the fabric of the uniforms, the hygiene of hand washing to prevent illness. Every little detail was improved by just a fraction. And over time, those tiny gains added up. Within 5 years, they won multiple Olympic gold medals. Within 10 years, they were dominating world cycling events. The lesson: small improvements, when repeated daily, are anything but small. Now apply that to your brain. You don't need to become a genius overnight. You don't need to study for 5 hours a day. You just need to make room for a small daily upgrade. Learn one new word. Reflect on one new idea. Ask one better question. Write one insight in your journal. That's it. The problem is, most people are obsessed with intensity. They want to binge learn. They wait for a weekend to start that online course, then burn out halfway through. Or they set a goal to read a whole book in one sitting, but give up when they get distracted. Intensity feels exciting, but consistency creates results. Think about water. A single drop doesn't seem powerful, but keep dropping it on the same spot, day after day, and it carves through stone. That's the power of doing a little, but doing it every day. This is where most people fall behind. Not because they lack talent, but because they underestimate the value of staying consistent. So how do you apply the 1% rule in your life? Start small. Set a micro goal each day. 1 page, 1 video, 1 reflection. Track your progress, not for perfection, but to build awareness. Keep a simple journal, or mark an X on your calendar for every day you learn something. The satisfaction of showing up daily becomes its own reward. More importantly, forgive yourself when you miss a day, but don't let it become 2. The goal isn't to be perfect, the goal is to build a rhythm. You're not just adding knowledge, you're building the identity of someone who learns, someone who shows up, someone who grows. Because over the course of a year, a tiny daily shift adds up to radical transformation. It's not flashy, it won't make headlines, but it will change your life in ways no quick fix ever could. So remember, don't chase massive leaps, embrace tiny steps. Master the art of showing up, because the person who learns a little every day will always outrun the person who waits to learn a lot someday. And if you can stay just 1% ahead of who you were yesterday, day after day, you'll wake up 1 year from now, ahead of 99% of the people still stuck in place, waiting, planning, and never starting. Your edge is in your daily effort. That's the 1% rule, and it works, if you work it. Chapter 3. Learning how to learn. Learning isn't just about collecting information, it's about transformation, and to truly transform through learning, you need to understand how you learn. Most people were never taught this. They were told what to learn, but not how to absorb, retain, or apply it. That's where metacognition comes in, the awareness of your own thinking and learning processes. When you become conscious of how you take in knowledge, you unlock the ability to learn faster, remember more, and actually use what you know. Think of your brain as a sponge. Passive learning is like pouring water on it and hoping something sticks. Active learning, on the other hand, is like squeezing the sponge, dipping it, wringing it out, and using it with intention. It's a process. It's effortful. But that effort is exactly what makes it effective. Most of us were raised in systems that favored passive learning, sitting through lectures, highlighting pages, rereading chapters. We mistake exposure for understanding, but just seeing or hearing something isn't enough. Real learning happens when you engage with the material, when you think about it, wrestle with it, explain it, and connect it to what you already know. Take this in. Don't just consume information, digest it, chew on it, break it down. Teach it to someone else. Apply it in your life. That's when it sticks. So how do you move from passive to active learning? One powerful method is spaced repetition. Your brain doesn't retain knowledge by hearing it once, it needs to encounter it again and again, spaced out over time. Apps like Anki and tools like flashcards use this technique to help you move information from short-term memory into long-term memory. It's not about cramming more, it's about revisiting strategically. Another underrated tool is note-taking. Not the frantic copying of every word, but intentional summarizing. Write in your own words, create outlines, jot down questions, highlight what made you stop and think. Your notes aren't for the teacher, they're for you. Done right, they become an external brain, a map of your understanding. If you really want to supercharge your learning, try teaching what you learn. There's a saying, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. Teaching forces clarity. It exposes gaps in your knowledge. It turns vague concepts into concrete insights. Share what you're learning with a friend. Write a social media post about it, or speak it out loud to yourself. You'll be surprised how much more it solidifies. Then there's mind mapping, a visual way of capturing knowledge that mirrors how your brain works, associative, branching, interconnected. Instead of taking linear notes, try creating a map. Start with a central idea and branch out into key concepts, examples, and insights. This not only helps with comprehension, but also with recall. When you can see how ideas connect, you understand them on a deeper level. You might be thinking, that sounds like more work. And yes, it is. But the kind of work that actually pays off. Passive learning feels easier in the moment, but it's inefficient. Active learning takes more energy, but it saves time in the long run because you're actually learning, not just pretending to. One way to check your own learning process is to ask yourself this: can I remember what I learned yesterday? Can I explain it today? Can I apply it tomorrow? If the answer is no, go back, not to consume more, but to learn better. And let's be clear, learning how to learn isn't about being perfect, it's about being aware. It's about noticing when your attention drifts, when your recall slips, when your understanding is shallow, and making small shifts to stay engaged. That awareness is everything. It's also important to align your learning style with the right formats. Some people retain better through listening, others through visuals, and others by writing. Experiment. Mix mediums. Listen to audiobooks while walking. Sketch concepts while reading. Record voice notes after learning something new. The goal is not to stick to one method, but to find what sticks for you. And finally, give yourself permission to slow down. You don't need to rush through books, binge-watch courses, or cram podcasts into every free minute. Quality trumps quantity. One deeply understood idea is more powerful than 100 surface-level quotes. Mastery isn't about speed, it's about depth. So if you've ever felt frustrated that you read a lot but remember nothing, it's not your fault. You just haven't learned how to learn. But now, you have the tools. And with practice, you'll turn your learning into a force multiplier, not just something you do, but something you do well. Because the real edge in today's world isn't how much you know, it's how fast and effectively you can keep learning, unlearning, and relearning. And now, you know exactly where to start. Chapter 4. Kill the noise. Curate what you consume. In a world where information is everywhere, clarity is rare. You're surrounded by voices, scrolling headlines, endless videos, algorithm-fed suggestions, breaking news, hot takes, viral trends. You open your phone to learn something, and before you know it, an hour has vanished into content you didn't ask for and don't even remember. This is the age of noise, loud, constant, and seductive. And if you want to grow through learning, the first thing you must do is kill the noise. Here's a truth most people overlook. Not all information is education. Just because it sounds smart doesn't mean it's valuable. Just because it's popular doesn't mean it's useful. Information is cheap. Insight is rare. The difference is in the intent. Education is purposeful. It's information chosen with direction, absorbed with attention, and applied with intention. But digital clutter makes that difficult. When your brain is overloaded with conflicting ideas, half-truths, and clickbait knowledge, you end up overwhelmed. It's like trying to drink from a fire hose. Too much, too fast, and none of it sticks. You feel like you're learning, but you're really just swimming in shallow waters. Mental confusion becomes your default state, not because you're not smart, but because you haven't filtered what's worth your focus. That's where curation comes in. To truly educate yourself, you must become a gatekeeper of your mind. That means being intentional about what you allow in: books, podcasts, people, posts, videos, conversations. If it doesn't align with your growth, it's a distraction. It may not be toxic or harmful, but if it's not helping, it's hindering, and you don't have time to waste. Start by filtering the obvious distractions. Ask yourself, how much time do I spend consuming content that teaches me nothing? Be honest. Entertainment has its place, but when it crowds out learning, it becomes a trap. The average person spends hours a day scrolling, hours that could be spent reading, reflecting, or building a new skill. But filtering isn't just about cutting out the junk. It's also about choosing what to keep. That means prioritizing quality. What are the sources that consistently teach you something useful? Who are the thinkers that challenge you to grow? What types of content leave you better than they found you? Those are the voices worth turning up. In the age of unlimited access, your greatest asset isn't bandwidth, it's attention. Your attention is your currency, and every time you give it away, you're making an investment. So the question becomes, are you investing in entertainment or elevation? Are you spending your focus on distraction or development? Curating what you consume doesn't require cutting yourself off from the world. It means designing an environment where learning is the default. Unfollow accounts that make you feel small or scatterbrained. Subscribe to newsletters that teach. Replace shallow content with deep sources, books, lectures, long-form podcasts, and in-depth courses. Make your feed a library, not a landfill. Create systems that support this new level of clarity. You could keep a learning playlist of podcasts and videos you trust, so you're not at the mercy of algorithms. You could build a digital bookshelf of articles and books you want to dive into. You could set learning hours where social media is off and your brain is fully on. The more intentional you become with your inputs, the sharper your mind becomes over time. It's also helpful to revisit the why behind your learning. What are you trying to grow into? What skills do you want to sharpen? What mindset do you want to master? These questions help you align your consumption with your goals. Without this alignment, you'll drift. With it, you'll ascend. One of the best things you can do is simplify. You don't need to follow every expert or subscribe to every channel. In fact, the fewer inputs you have, the more clearly you can hear your own thoughts. The goal isn't to know everything, it's to deeply understand what matters to you. It's easy to feel left behind in a noisy world, but the truth is, you're not falling behind because you're not learning fast enough. You're falling behind because your focus is being stolen, little by little, every time you scroll past something meaningless. The good news: you can take it back, right now. Reclaim your attention, protect your mind, choose your inputs, because the quality of what you consume will determine the quality of who you become. Kill the noise, curate your inputs, and watch your learning accelerate, not because you're working harder, but because you're finally thinking clearly. Chapter 5. Build a personal curriculum. The traditional education system follows a one-size-fits-all model. It puts everyone through the same path, hands out the same books, and evaluates people with the same tests. But the real world doesn't work that way. In life, success is deeply personal. Your goals aren't identical to anyone else's. Your needs, passions, and challenges are uniquely yours. That's why if you want to grow in a meaningful, lasting way, you need to build something school never taught you how to, your own personal curriculum. A personal curriculum is your self-designed roadmap for growth. It's not based on a classroom or a degree. It's based on you, your purpose, your interests, your career, your relationships, your finances, your mindset. It's custom-built learning for the person you are now and the person you want to become. No more waiting for someone else to tell you what you need to know. You take the wheel. Start by identifying the areas of your life that need development. Maybe it's your finances. You want to escape debt, build savings, or learn to invest. Maybe it's your communication. You want to speak more confidently, write more clearly, or lead more effectively. Maybe it's your career. You're looking to change industries, grow a business, or increase your income. Or maybe it's personal, your health, your mindset, your habits. Whatever it is, write it down. Get clear. This is the foundation of your curriculum. Once you know what you want to grow in, it's time to gather your resources. And here's the beautiful part. We're living in the most resource-rich time in human history. Information is everywhere. You don't need to enroll in a university or pay thousands of dollars to get started. All you need is access to books, podcasts, audiobooks, mentors, and online courses, and a commitment to use them with intention. Start with books. They're the most accessible, timeless tools for deep learning. Someone spent years learning, practicing, failing, refining, and then condensed all of that into 200 pages you can finish in a week. Books allow you to sit with brilliant minds across centuries. Create a reading list based on the areas you want to grow in. If you want to master money, read one personal finance book per month. If you want to understand human behavior, dive into psychology. If you're building a business, find the stories and strategies of entrepreneurs who've done what you're trying to do. Your reading list becomes your syllabus. Then incorporate podcasts and audiobooks. These are perfect for moments when you're on the move, driving, walking, working out, cooking. Make it a habit to turn passive time into learning time. Follow podcast hosts who challenge your thinking. Listen to audiobooks that expand your worldview. Keep your earbuds ready, not just to block out noise, but to build your knowledge base. Online courses are another powerful tool in your curriculum. You can learn almost any skill: coding, writing, marketing, investing, negotiation, public speaking, from world-class experts, right from your home. Platforms like Coursera, Udemy, LinkedIn Learning, and Masterclass have made it easier than ever to tap into structured, skill-based learning. Pick one course at a time. Don't just watch, engage, take notes, do the exercises, apply what you learn. But don't stop with content. Add mentorship to your curriculum. Learning from someone who's walked the path ahead of you gives you not only knowledge, but also wisdom. A mentor can help you avoid mistakes, shorten your learning curve, and show you what's really important. And mentorship doesn't have to be formal. You can learn from people online. Follow their work, study their decisions, read what they write, and mirror their thought processes. In a digital world, mentorship can happen at a distance. Now comes the most important part: structure. A curriculum without structure is just a pile of good intentions. You need a system, a routine, that makes learning non-negotiable. This is where your power hour comes in. Your power hour is a sacred block of time you dedicate to intentional learning every day. It could be 60 minutes straight, or 30 minutes twice a day. What matters is consistency. No distractions, no multitasking, just pure, focused education. During this hour you read, listen, watch, write, reflect, you learn. This one habit alone can completely reshape your life. Let's make it real. Imagine a 22-year-old with no college degree, no formal background, but a strong desire to grow. They decide to build their own personal curriculum. Every month, they read one book on personal finance. Every quarter, they take one online course in digital marketing. Every day, they listen to one podcast from a successful entrepreneur. Over time, their power hour becomes a ritual. After 12 months, they've read 12 books, taken 4 courses, and consumed hundreds of hours of expert insight. They've quietly built the equivalent of a business school education, without debt, without permission, on their own terms. Now ask yourself, what could your next 12 months look like if you committed to the same? You are your own best teacher, not because you know everything, but because you know what you need to know. The school system never taught you to do this. It trained you to wait for lessons. But the truth is, you can create your own lessons. You don't need approval, you need a plan. Start simple. Choose one subject. Pick one book. Block 1 hour. Then build on that. Learning doesn't have to be fast. It just has to be focused. And when you design your own education, it becomes infinitely more meaningful, because every single thing you learn is tied to a real outcome in your life. This is how you stop wondering and start advancing. This is how you build your edge, by becoming the kind of person who doesn't rely on others to grow. You don't wait for permission. You take responsibility for your own expansion. The best part? It's all within reach. The resources are free or affordable. The time is there, waiting in the gaps between distractions. The potential is already inside you. All that's missing is your decision to begin. So build your curriculum, craft your learning path, commit to your power hour, and then let time do its magic. Because 1 year from now, you won't just be smarter, you'll be stronger, you'll think differently, speak more clearly, solve more creatively, and live more intentionally. You'll be equipped, not just informed. Most people wait to be taught. The top 1%, they teach themselves. And now, so will you. Chapter 6. The Power of Reflection and Note-Taking. Learning doesn't end when the video stops playing or when you finish the last page of a book. That's where real learning begins, because taking in information is only one part of the equation. The other, often neglected but absolutely vital, is reflection. Without it, most of what you learn gets lost, buried under noise, forgotten before it's ever used. Reflection is the moment when knowledge moves from the surface of your mind into the roots. It's the pause that turns information into insight. And in a world that constantly pushes us to consume more and move faster, reflection is a radical act. But it's also the most powerful tool you have to retain what you learn, connect it to your life, and apply it with intention. Learning without reflection is like pouring water into a leaky bucket. No matter how much you consume, most of it will disappear. Think back to the last time you watched a powerful documentary, listened to an insightful podcast, or read a game-changing chapter of a book. Did you stop to reflect on it afterward? Did you write anything down? Did you do anything with that information? If not, chances are you've already forgotten most of it. Not because you're forgetful, but because the mind needs space and structure to keep what it receives. That space and structure come through note-taking, but not the rigid kind you were taught in school. We're not talking about copying facts or transcribing lectures word for word. We're talking about active, intentional, personal notes. The kind that engage your thoughts, your questions, your interpretations. The kind that dialogue with what you're learning, rather than just recording it. Think of your notes not as a storage device, but as a thinking tool, a canvas, a sketch pad for your brain. This is where ideas come alive. This is where learning transforms from passive consumption into creative engagement. Leonardo da Vinci understood this centuries ago. He carried notebooks with him everywhere, not to write down what he already knew, but to explore what he didn't. He filled them with questions, drawings, observations, lists, and scattered thoughts. He sketched wings as he pondered flight. He scribbled anatomy sketches next to to-do lists. That chaotic collection of curiosity became the inner architecture of one of the most creative and brilliant minds in history. Your notebook could be your laboratory too. When you journal what you're learning, you invite your mind to organize, challenge, and personalize that knowledge. It doesn't have to be fancy. Start by writing down one insight each day, something that struck you, surprised you, or connected with you. Then ask yourself, why did this matter to me? How could I use it? What else does it make me think about? These simple questions turn content into clarity. This habit doesn't just boost memory, it strengthens understanding. The more you write, the more you think. And the more you think, the more you own what you've learned. Ownership is what separates true learners from passive consumers. But we can take this even further. Enter the concept of the second brain, a system for capturing, organizing, and retrieving ideas, notes, and insights, so your mind doesn't have to hold it all. Coined by productivity expert Tiago Forte, the second brain is like building a digital library of your thoughts. It's a way to create your own personal knowledge base over time. Here's how it works. Instead of letting ideas pass you by, you capture them through notes, highlights, summaries, screenshots, voice memos. Then you organize them in a tool that works for you. Notion, Evernote, OneNote, Google Docs, or even a physical journal. You categorize your knowledge by themes like creativity, productivity, health, money, or leadership, so you can find and revisit ideas when you need them. This method transforms your scattered thoughts into a structured system. It means you don't have to remember everything, because your second brain does it for you. It allows you to make connections across time, revisit your thinking, and build depth of knowledge instead of surface-level repetition. Let's break it down practically. Start with a simple daily reflection log. After every learning session, whether it's reading, listening, or watching, take 5 minutes to write down what stood out. Then write what you think about it. Not just what the author said, but what you agree with, disagree with, or want to explore further. Over time, this habit compounds into a deeper, more personalized understanding of your chosen subjects. Then, build a summaries archive. For every book or course you complete, write a one-page summary in your own words. Include key takeaways, favorite quotes, and practical applications. The act of summarizing forces your brain to filter, organize, and prioritize information, exactly the kind of mental effort that leads to long-term memory. You can even start an idea log, a place where you store questions, insights, or concepts that inspire curiosity. Sometimes, your best breakthroughs don't come from learning new things, but from revisiting old ideas with fresh eyes. And here's the best part. All of this becomes a resource you can return to, again and again. When you need inspiration, revisit your own notes. When you're stuck, review what you've already learned. You're not starting from scratch. You're building from a growing foundation of your own intelligence. This process does take time, but it's time that pays you back. Most people skip reflection and note-taking because they're eager to move on to the next thing. They believe speed equals progress. But real progress comes from depth, not speed, and depth is born in the pause. Think of reflection as digestion. Just like your body can't benefit from food, it doesn't digest. Your mind can't benefit from information, it doesn't reflect on. The brain needs space to connect the dots, to turn knowledge into action, and the notebook is where those dots live. Whether it's a leather-bound journal or a minimalist notes app, make it your companion. Don't worry about being neat or perfect. Just be consistent. Capture what matters. Explore what sticks. Question what confuses you, and over time, that messy stack of thoughts will evolve into your greatest asset, a thinking system of your own design. Because in the end, knowledge isn't power. Applied knowledge is power, and knowledge that's applied starts with knowledge that's retained. That's what reflection and note-taking do. They keep what would otherwise be lost. They anchor your growth in clarity. So the next time you finish a book, a podcast, or even a chapter of this audiobook, ask yourself, what did I just learn? How does it apply to my life? Where can I write it down? These questions could be the beginning of a much smarter, more intentional, and far more powerful version of you. Leonardo da Vinci's notebooks changed the world. Yours might not sit in a museum, but they could change your world. And that's where true learning lives. Chapter 7. Apply what you learn or lose it. You can read every book, watch every video, and fill entire notebooks with notes. But if you don't do something with what you learn, it doesn't matter. Knowledge that isn't applied fades. Ideas that aren't executed dissolve into memory dust. If you want to transform through learning, then you must take the next step. Action. Because execution is the bridge between what you know and who you become. It's a truth many overlook. We confuse understanding something with living it. We highlight a quote and feel inspired. We nod at a good idea and feel smart. But none of that creates real growth unless it's followed by action. Growth lives in the doing. You don't have to take massive steps all at once. You just need to start using what you've learned in small, real ways. If you've been reading about habits, try designing your morning routine. If you've studied communication, apply one tip in your next conversation. If you're learning about finance, change how you budget this week. Theory becomes powerful only when it's tested in your life. The moment you take what's in your head and try it with your hands, you invite real learning to begin, because that's when you discover what works, what doesn't, and what needs refining. That's when feedback replaces fantasy. That's when the information you've been collecting suddenly starts to feel alive. One of the most powerful ways to solidify learning is to teach it. Teaching forces clarity. It reveals what you truly understand and what you're just repeating. You don't need to be an expert to teach. You just need to share what you're learning in a way that makes sense to you. Start small. Write a blog post summarizing a chapter. Share a takeaway on social media. Record a voice memo explaining a concept to your future self. Help a friend with a problem using a tool you just learned. When you explain something out loud, your brain has to organize it. This reinforces understanding. You'll retain more and learn faster because you're not just a student anymore, you're becoming a practitioner. This is called learning in public, and it's one of the most underrated habits of high performers. It builds confidence, connection, and consistency. When you share your insights, people start seeing you as someone who takes growth seriously. You attract better conversations, deeper relationships, and unexpected opportunities. Most of all, you stay accountable. You've made your learning visible, and that pushes you to live what you preach. But let's not pretend application is always easy. Fear gets in the way. Fear of getting it wrong. Fear of looking foolish. Fear of stepping outside the comfort of preparation mode. Many people hide behind learning because it feels safe. Consuming information gives a sense of progress without the risk of failure, but real progress demands vulnerability. It asks you to try, to test, and sometimes to stumble. That's okay. Stumbling is part of the process. Failure isn't the enemy of learning, it's the proof of it. Every time you act on an idea, you're sharpening your understanding. Every time you apply a new tool, you're building skill. That's how learning turns into transformation. So make this your motto. Learn it, try it, share it. That cycle is where real growth happens. Learn something useful, try it out, then share what happened, good, bad, or surprising. When you live like this, your education stops being abstract. It becomes practical, personal, and deeply powerful. Let's be clear, knowledge is only potential power. It sits there, waiting for you to act. Until you apply it, it can't serve you. It can't build your future. It can't change your life. That's your job, and you don't need to be perfect at it. You just need to begin. So the next time you finish a book, ask yourself, what's one thing I can apply from this today? The next time you learn something new, ask, where can I use this in my life right now? Don't let insights pile up in your mind. Let them move through you and into the world. Because learning is not about accumulation, it's about activation. And action is what makes you different from the 99% who are still just reading. Chapter 8. The Discipline of Daily Learning. Discipline is the difference between occasional improvement and lifelong transformation. If you want learning to truly change your life, it can't be something you do only when it's convenient, exciting, or easy. It has to become part of who you are. That means learning must be a non-negotiable. Like brushing your teeth or eating meals, daily learning must be a habit, not a hope. In a world full of distractions, building that discipline doesn't happen by accident. You must be intentional. You must design your day around growth, not just wait for a good time to appear. Because if you wait for free time, you'll always be too busy. If you wait for motivation, it'll never come when you need it most. The people who stay ahead of 99% aren't the ones who cram information in random sprints. They're the ones who show up every day, even in small ways, and do the work. Think of learning as mental fitness. If you wanted to get physically strong, you wouldn't go to the gym once a month and expect results. You'd commit to consistent, deliberate training. The same goes for your mind. Just 30 to 60 minutes a day compounds over time into wisdom, skill, confidence, and clarity. And the best way to protect that consistency is to follow a simple 3-part system. Schedule it, protect it, track it. What gets scheduled gets done. If your calendar doesn't reflect your desire to grow, then growth will always take a back seat. Choose a specific time for your daily learning. Morning, evening, lunch break. It doesn't matter when, as long as it's deliberate. Call it your power hour or learning block. Put it in your calendar as seriously as a meeting with your boss. This is your meeting with your future self. It doesn't have to be long. Start with 20 minutes, if that's all you can manage. Read 5 pages of a book. Listen to a podcast episode. Watch 10 minutes of an online course. Over time, that small window becomes sacred. It trains your mind to expect and respect that time. And soon you'll feel uncomfortable not learning, the same way you'd feel strange skipping a meal or forgetting to brush your teeth. Life is loud. Notifications, chores, emails, endless tabs, it all competes for your attention. That's why scheduling alone isn't enough. You have to protect your learning time like it matters, because it does. If you treat it casually, the world will casually take it from you. Turn off distractions. Silence your phone, Log out of social media. Let others know you're unavailable. Create a distraction-free space, even if it's just a quiet corner or a pair of headphones in a noisy room. Protect your environment the way a writer protects their solitude or an athlete protects their recovery. Your mind is your most valuable asset. Guard it with intention. You can also create rituals around your learning. A cup of tea, a certain playlist, a favorite chair. These signals train your brain to enter learning mode quickly and stay focused. Rituals reduce resistance. They help you slip into flow. What you measure, you improve. When you track your learning, you make it real. You give it weight and visibility. Create a simple log where you record what you studied, for how long, and what you learned. This doesn't have to be elaborate. A notebook, a spreadsheet, or a notes app is enough. Over time, this record becomes proof of your discipline. You'll see the streaks, the gaps, the patterns. You'll notice which days you were sharp and which days you struggled. You'll learn how to optimize your energy, your focus, and your rhythm. Tracking turns your growth from something abstract into something tangible. And here's the deeper benefit. Tracking builds momentum. Even on days when you don't feel like learning, the desire to keep the streak alive can push you through. A small checkbox can carry big motivation. Eventually, daily learning becomes part of your identity. You're no longer someone who wants to grow. You're someone who does. Now let's talk about busy days. We all have them. Deadlines, emergencies, exhaustion. On those days your discipline will be tested the most. That's when it's tempting to say, just for today, I'll skip. But the truth is, skipping today makes it easier to skip tomorrow. That's how momentum breaks. That's how consistency dies. So what do you do when life gets chaotic? You scale down, not give up. Read for 5 minutes instead of 30. Watch half a lesson instead of the full course. Reflect on one insight instead of writing a whole page. The goal isn't perfection, it's persistence. The habit is what matters, not the duration. Even the smallest action keeps the flame alive. This brings us to the most overlooked shift of all, replacing mindless habits with mindful ones. If you claim you're too busy to learn, look closer. How much time are you spending scrolling social media, watching Netflix, reading gossip, or falling down YouTube rabbit holes? Most people don't lack time, they lack intention. Imagine swapping just one Netflix episode a day for one idea that could change your life. That's 30 episodes a month, replaced by 30 powerful ideas. Ideas that could lead to a new career, a new mindset, a new income stream, a new relationship. The math is simple. The discipline is the difference. Benjamin Franklin understood this long before the internet. Even while building businesses, publishing newspapers, conducting scientific experiments, and negotiating with world leaders, he followed a strict principle, the 5-hour rule. 5 days a week, 1 hour each day, purely for learning, reading, reflecting, experimenting. He treated it like a sacred appointment with his own future, and he credited much of his success to that commitment. What's your version of the 5-hour rule? Could you wake up 30 minutes earlier to read? Could you replace your commute playlist with a podcast? Could you journal your thoughts at night instead of scrolling in bed? Could you watch a masterclass while folding laundry or preparing dinner? Daily learning doesn't require more time. It requires better time. The time is already there. You just have to claim it. Every moment you spend growing makes you sharper, more valuable, more adaptable. You become the kind of person who doesn't panic when change hits, because you're always learning, always evolving. And here's what's beautiful about this discipline. It compounds. The longer you stay committed, the more effortless it feels. Your brain becomes faster, your focus sharper, your thinking more strategic. You start making better decisions, having deeper conversations, and solving bigger problems. People notice. Opportunities come. Confidence grows. You're no longer reacting to life. You're preparing for it. You're not just working hard, you're becoming smarter every single day. So let this be your new standard. Learning is not optional, it's a daily practice. A personal contract, a quiet promise you make to yourself every single day to rise. Don't chase perfection, chase consistency. Don't wait for motivation, rely on systems. Don't ask, do I have time? Ask, what can I trade for something that matters more? Because in the end, the most successful people aren't the busiest. They're the ones who protect their learning time. Even when life gets noisy, they don't scroll for escape. They study for expansion. And now, so will you. Chapter 9. Environment is your silent teacher. There's a teacher in your life that rarely speaks, never writes, and won't give you a diploma, yet it influences how you think, what you do, and how far you go. Every single day. That teacher is your environment. Your surroundings quietly shape your behavior, your habits, and your focus, whether you're aware of it or not. In the world of daily self-education, your environment can be your greatest ally, or your biggest obstacle. You may have the motivation to learn, the right books, a solid curriculum, and a strong desire to grow. But if your environment is constantly distracting, uninspiring, or even toxic, progress becomes a daily uphill battle. You don't just rise to the level of your intentions, you fall to the level of your environment. Your brain craves focus. It functions best when the external world supports what your internal world is trying to achieve. When you step into a space that says, this is where growth happens, your mind responds. You become more alert, more open, more committed. But when you sit in chaos, cluttered desks, buzzing notifications, mindless noise, your attention fragments. Even if you sit down with the best intentions, your environment pulls you away from them. Let's get real. You can't build a high-performance mind in a low-performance setting. Take two people with the same ambition. Let's say they both want to build a habit of daily learning. One sits in a cluttered room, phone lighting up every minute, music blaring, TV in the background, surrounded by unopened junk and yesterday's to-do list. The other sits in a small, organized space, maybe a desk with a lamp, a stack of books, a notebook, and a printed quote on the wall that says, "The future belongs to the learners." No distractions, just quiet energy. Same goal, same amount of time, same resources. But one of them feels constantly drained and distracted. The other feels calm, centered, and inspired. Why? Because the environment either supports your growth or sabotages it. That's why your first step is to curate your space. You don't need a fancy office or a designer setup. You just need a place that tells your brain, we're here to learn. Clear the clutter, remove the noise, set up a small area, be it a desk, a corner, or even a spot on the floor that's reserved for intentional growth. Surround yourself with books. Even if you're not reading them all at once, the physical presence of books reminds you who you are and who you're becoming. Add objects that signal learning, a notebook, a pen you love, your tablet with saved lessons. Add visual triggers, a motivational quote, a photo of someone who inspires you, a calendar tracking your power hour streak. These elements send your subconscious a message, learning lives here, and then silence. The noise, physically and digitally. Your phone, your tabs, your alerts, they're not just distracting you, they're derailing your momentum. One glance at a notification can steal 10 minutes of focus. Multiply that by a week, and you've lost hours that could have been invested in your future. Protect your space by setting rules. No social media in your learning zone, no multitasking, no mindless activity. When you sit down to learn, that time belongs only to you and your future. Everything else can wait. But your environment isn't just physical, it's also social. And this might be the most powerful, overlooked factor of all. The people around you influence your mindset more than you think. Are you surrounded by learners or critics? Do you have people who challenge you to grow, or people who question why you're even trying? Here's a truth that stings. You become like the people you spend the most time with. If you're constantly around those who complain, settle, gossip, and avoid growth, that energy infects your ambition. You'll start thinking smaller. You'll talk yourself out of goals. You'll shrink to fit the crowd. On the other hand, when you surround yourself with people who are curious, driven, and committed to learning, something shifts. Their energy elevates yours. Their progress pushes you to step up. Their conversations become your fuel. You find yourself in a space where learning isn't weird. It's expected. Where growth isn't rare. It's normal. If you don't have those people in your physical life yet, don't worry. That's the power of the digital world. Join online communities. Follow creators who educate, not just entertain. Join book clubs, learning groups, mastermind circles. Engage in forums where people are sharing ideas, insights, and resources. You don't need to be in the same room to be in the same mindset. Just immerse yourself in the culture of growth. This is what it means to build an environment that teaches you, your space, your habits, your people. All of it adds up to a kind of silent curriculum. One that's teaching you, shaping you, and preparing you for what's next. Let's go even deeper. Want to supercharge your environment? Start layering it with identity triggers. These are reminders of who you want to become. Sticky notes with affirmations. Background wallpapers with your goals. A vision board. A quote as your phone lock screen. A daily journal prompt on your desk. These small touches shape your internal dialogue. When your surroundings reflect your future self more than your past self, something profound happens. You stop learning just for the sake of knowledge, and start learning because it feels like your natural state. Your space becomes an extension of your purpose, and when you live in that kind of space, you don't need to fight for motivation. It meets you there. The best part, you're in full control of this. Unlike talent, environment is something you can change. You don't have to stay in spaces that drain you. You can build a learning sanctuary, one decision at a time. Declutter a shelf, rearrange a room, unfollow 3 distracting accounts. Join one new group, print one quote. Build your world around your goals, not your distractions. Here's a powerful question to ask yourself regularly. Is my environment pulling me toward my future, or keeping me stuck in my past? Be honest. If your answer leans toward the past, it's time to redesign. Because ultimately, environment is habit's best friend. When your space makes learning easier, you don't have to rely on willpower. Your environment does the work for you. It removes resistance. It creates clarity. It sets the tone before you even start. So don't underestimate it. You could be one environmental shift away from unlocking the consistency you've been chasing for years. Remember, growth isn't just about what you do. It's about where you do it. Create a space that teaches you. Shape your surroundings to match your ambition. Eliminate what distracts. Add what inspires. And step into every day, knowing this. You become what surrounds you. Let your environment become your silent teacher, and let it whisper every day. Keep growing. Chapter 10. Outlearn to outperform. In today's fast-moving world, competition is no longer just about strength, intelligence, or even experience. It's about adaptability. The ability to keep learning, keep evolving, and keep improving is the single most important edge you can have. Because while others rely on outdated skills and static thinking, lifelong learners stay dynamic, relevant, and unshakable. If you want to outperform, you must first outlearn. This chapter is about turning learning into your most powerful form of leverage. It's about using your brain, not just your effort, to stay ahead of the curve. Because here's the truth. No matter what your goals are, you won't rise higher than the level of your knowledge. In fact, when things get tough, when industries shift, when markets crash, when trends die, you won't fall back on your dreams. You'll fall back on your training. Most people stop learning once they become good enough. They graduate, get a job, learn the ropes, and then plateau. That's where the majority lives, coasting on yesterday's knowledge, doing just enough to survive, not enough to thrive. But the top 1%, they never stop sharpening the blade. They know that every new skill is a new opportunity. Every book is a doorway. Every lesson is an investment that compounds forever. And it's not just about learning more, it's about learning smarter. That's where the concept of skill stacking comes in. Instead of trying to master just one thing, the smartest performers stack multiple complementary skills. You might not be the best writer in the world, or the best designer, or the best marketer, but if you're good enough at all three, you're unstoppable. Take the example of someone who combines public speaking, basic coding, and storytelling. Separately, those skills are useful. Together they create a communicator who can pitch ideas, build prototypes, and deliver unforgettable messages. That kind of person doesn't need to chase opportunity. Opportunity finds them. Skill stacking is your secret weapon. Learn sales plus design. Learn leadership plus data analytics. Learn teaching plus emotional intelligence. The combinations are endless, and every new skill you add increases your value, your confidence, and your resilience. You become harder to replace, harder to compete with, because you're playing a different game. This is especially important in a world that's changing faster than ever. The tools you used last year might be obsolete next year. The platform you built your business on might disappear. The degree that once opened doors might no longer matter. But if you've trained yourself to be a learner, to adapt, pivot, and grow, then no change can shake you, because you are the change. This is where trend adaptation comes in. Lifelong learners don't just chase what's new, they anticipate it. They read, research, and study beyond their immediate field. They explore adjacent industries. They ask, what's coming next? And how can I prepare now? That kind of foresight turns knowledge into strategy. Think of the entrepreneurs who learned digital marketing early. The creators who embraced YouTube before it exploded. The writers who saw the rise of self-publishing and mastered the tools. They didn't succeed by luck. They succeeded because they were learning ahead of the curve. And the beautiful part, you can too. You don't need to be a futurist. You just need to be curious and consistent. Subscribe to newsletters in your industry. Follow thought leaders. Read reports. Take courses that stretch your thinking. Your goal isn't to predict the future perfectly. It's to be prepared for it. Because when you keep learning, you keep evolving. You don't get stuck. You don't panic when things shift. You pivot. You apply what you know in new ways. That's the mark of the most successful people. They're never trapped by a title, a platform, or a plan. They're fueled by knowledge, not comfort. But there's one more layer to this idea of outlearning, and it's a big one: personal branding through knowledge. We live in a world where your ideas are your greatest assets. When you share what you learn, when you document your journey, when you speak up, write, post, and teach, you build authority. You don't need a massive following. You just need to consistently show that you're learning, growing, and thinking deeply. Start sharing what you know. Post book reviews. Share takeaways from courses. Write about what you're exploring, what you're questioning, what you're testing. This is how you build your digital presence, not through hype, but through value. You become known as someone who learns out loud, and that magnetizes people who want to learn with you. You create opportunities without begging for them. People reach out, networks expand, jobs appear, collaborations spark, not because you screamed the loudest, but because you became someone who thinks, someone who applies, someone who shares. In a world full of noise, thoughtful learners stand out. So let's bring this all together. You want to outperform, then make learning your lifestyle. Don't wait for a crisis to force you to adapt. Don't wait for a promotion to justify a new skill. Don't wait for permission to grow. Start today and keep going. Every single day. Build your personal stack of skills. Stay curious about what's next. Be bold enough to share your thinking. And remember, you don't need to know everything. You just need to learn faster, deeper, and more consistently than the crowd around you. Outlearn, and you will outperform. This mindset isn't about arrogance. It's about ownership. Owning your development, owning your edge, owning your future. Because in the long run, it's not the strongest who win. It's not the smartest. It's not even the most connected. It's the ones who keep learning. The ones who show up every day, curious and committed. The ones who outlearn everyone else, and then watch the results follow. So take this with you. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your knowledge. Make that your standard. Make that your strategy. And from this day forward, commit to becoming a person who learns not just for today's rewards, but for tomorrow's mastery. Outlearn, and the world can't help but watch you outperform. You've just finished this audiobook. Pause for a moment and really let that sink in. While others scrolled endlessly, binged shows, or drifted through another day, you chose something different. You chose to grow. You chose to learn. And that choice alone sets you apart. By listening all the way through, you've already done something most won't. You've invested in yourself. That's no small thing. You didn't need a classroom. You didn't need a degree. You just needed curiosity and a willingness to show up. That is what self-education is all about. It's not about perfection. It's about presence. And you've been here, every word, every idea, every chapter, proving that you're serious about your own evolution. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to move at lightning speed. What you do need is consistency. Daily, deliberate effort. That's what creates transformation, not just over weeks or months, but over a lifetime. Because when you educate yourself every day, you become someone who adapts, who thrives, and who stays ahead of the crowd, not by luck, but by discipline. So if you're ever tempted to give up, or feel like it's not working fast enough, remember this. The people you admire, they're not lucky. They're just learning. Every day. Now so are you. This is just the beginning. The goal isn't to finish one audiobook and stop. The goal is to build a rhythm that never ends. Read tomorrow, reflect tomorrow, grow tomorrow, and then do it again and again, until learning isn't just something you do, it's who you are. Let your next book, your next course, your next reflection session be a continuation of the momentum you've built here. Make it your mission to stay in motion, because every day you educate yourself, you take another step toward the version of you that most people never become. So keep going. Educate yourself tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that, because the new you isn't coming someday. The new you is already learning, right now.